Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Wednesday, February 20th, 2019, and it's 4:13 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. We've got another full show planned for today. We've got another new day's worth of data of methane on tap here from CAMS. We're going to show that. Then I've got several articles, newsworthy articles, all different kinds, not just on climate, but of other interest as well. And then we'll go over some comments, and then we'll do earthquakes. So sit back and let's see what's going on in the world. So yesterday we showed Sunday the 17th as our base time, and then the new data is from Monday, February 18th. So I have that chosen as the base time. I have the Arctic view chosen here and surface level for methane. So this is where it left off on Sunday, where we had seen this dispersal all the way across the Arctic, and now it's dispersing out over to Spalding and moving down into Canada, and it had kind of calmed down over here in the Laptev and the Kara Seas, and then there was a new release building here in Siberia. So that's where we were at, and then there was a release happening, dark methane, dark levels of methane, or high levels, up into the 2160 to 2000 parts per million range, coming up from around Norway and coming up from this North Sea here. So I have the movie loaded up, so let's see what happens. And so on that day's worth of data, everything kind of dissipated, and then as we're looking into the forecast period, new releases begin here on around Thursday, and then more building happens, and then we start seeing more being released here in the Kara Sea as we get further into the forecast period. Look, it started on Wednesday, and see where it's just popping up on Thursday, and it keeps popping up, and there it is on Friday. Is just coming up. So I'll run this through a couple of times for you to see. And notice this release in this Laptev Sea, where it's in this reddish orange color, and then it's moving all the way across the Arctic again. Okay, so there's that, and then I have it pulled up for Monday again, the 18th, for global and surface level. So I thought I'd just run this so that you could see what it's like in your neck of the woods with methane. And what we're seeing is higher methane releases coming out of the United States, probably because it's getting warmer. Look at that. Huge releases in certain parts, and I know they're expecting a lot more rain and storms and stuff over on the eastern part of the United States. We're seeing large releases on the interior of South America. We're seeing large releases from Europe. It's looking worse even. Look at that. And here in India, China, Siberia, Russia, also down here in Indonesia. This northern part of Australia is releasing. Looks like New Zealand has some high releases. Africa does its part. So as we get away from colder weather and move into warmer weather, we can expect to see these methane levels start to increase. So let's pause that. I'll put that as the backdrop now. And I have several news articles that I'd like to share. The first one, it's a little bit out there. I'm very interested in what's happening in the future of medicine as well. And this article is from a website called themindunleashed.com. And it's almost 2 years old. It's from March 2nd, 2017. And it says, scientists get the green light to resurrect the dead with stem cells. So this is an example of how Satan is taken over in every aspect of the world and of the future. And, they can't leave well enough alone. They can't leave the dead dead. Now they're going to bring them back to life. And this is exactly what the dark side does. Going to play God since he's not God. Mine's BioQuark, a biotech company based in the United States, has been given the go-ahead to begin research on 20 brain-dead patients in an attempt to stimulate and regrow neurons and literally bring the patients back from the dead. The technique is new and untested, so the study will likely be controversial. By implanting stem cells in the patient's brain, in addition to treating the spinal cord with infusions of chemicals and nerve stimulation techniques, both of which have been shown to bring people out of comas, they hope to reboot the brain and jumpstart neural activity. It sounds like a Frankenstein experiment to me, frankly. The result could be people coming back to life. There isn't much evidence that this will work, though there is one well-known neurological researcher and a member of the American Academy of Neurology, Dr. Carlito Machado, who was involved with the study as a panel expert. BioQuark's CEO Ira Pastor said that, to undertake such a complex initiative, we are combining biologic regenerative medicine tools with other existing medical devices typically used for stimulation of the central nervous system in patients with other severe disorders of consciousness. We hope to see results within the first 2 to 3 months. He added, sorry, it is a long-time vision of ours that a full recovery in such patients is a possibility, although that is not the focus of this first study. It is a bridge to that eventuality. So, I'm going to do some follow-up research on this and see what they found. And how that study has gone, but I just wanted to go ahead and share that with you all today. So, you know, that was a couple of years ago, and it just blows my mind that this stuff is going on. So you can't even stay dead. And I don't know, you know, how long, if the person has to be revived within a certain amount of time or what, but, you know, I would think, you know, the soul would have left the body after a while. I mean, it leaves right at death, or, you know, pretty soon after. And so when you bring something back to life, it's like a zombie. You know, what's in there? What's controlling that? That just blows my mind. So next I have a new blog post from Robin Westenra, Seymour Rocks, and it's regarding the Cyclone OMA headed for Brisbane and will bring wild weather to New Zealand. So this is for my friends down under. We're going to be watching this cyclone and the weather systems that are coming on down there, and apparently they don't know how this cyclone is going to go, whether it's going to, now they're thinking it's going to go more towards Queensland, but for a while they didn't know, and but now by the weekend they're expecting some huge weather to happen in New Zealand because of the weather systems and the stuff that's trailing off of OMA as it's heading over to this eastern coast of Queensland, and then another system coming in, and then something coming east from this way, and so it's a whole thing. And so it's a whole bunch of complex stuff going on. Right now OMA is a Category 3 cyclone, tropical cyclone. It's expected to dump, what did I read? It was equivalent to 11 inches of rain, 300 millimeters. The system is likely to whip up dangerous swells, significantly erode beaches, dump isolated falls of 300 millimeters, and bring wind gusts faster than 100 kilometers per hour. So this is a serious storm. And I've got NASA Worldview pulled up so that we can see OMA, and here it is from today, and here it is right here. That's the eye of it. And a cyclone is like a hurricane, except it's in the southern hemisphere. So here's New Zealand down here, and we can see this trailing of it, or this other system that's gonna get fueled up and come here, and then there's going to be another system coming across. So New Zealand, they're expecting to get a lot of rain, so that'll help with the drought and the fires down there. But you know, let's just hope it doesn't dump, and so there's a bunch of flooding like they had up here in northern Queensland recently. And so now they're expecting it to hit down here, kind of like move south and go over, kind of do a zigzag down by, here's Brisbane here, and then there's a beach up here that they talked about. What was it? The Suncoast Beach or something like that. It's right up here. They're expecting it to hit. And so this is not the area that got flooded out by the other rains. It's the area that got flooded out was up here in northern Queensland, and there's that river of mud still that they're dealing with up there. So that's what's going on down there. Another thing you can do You can track this on Climate Reanalyzer. I wanted to show people how to do that in case you didn't know how. We can go to Outlook Forecasts from the home page and we can go to Australia, New Zealand, and then what'd I do? We can go 3 day, 5 days, or 10 days. If you leave it on 3 days, then it shows all the different all the different maps, like the average 2 meter temperature, 2 meter temperature anomaly, maximum, etc. Accumulated precipitation. So here's the storm coming in, and here's where they expect it to be within 3 days. And this is the average 10 meter wind speed, and they've got the graph down here below. And precipitable water, here's the sea level pressure, and so it's low. The sea level pressure, the barometric pressure is low, and so the lower it is, the more destructive the storm is when you get things like this in. So they're expecting it, then you can click on it, and then you can blow it up too. So it's just going to start making landfall in 3 days from now. So if we go back up and click on 5 days for Australia, there it is, and it's further in and it's even stronger. You can see that it's even higher winds. It's up into these dark, like 38 to 40 knots per hour. So they don't know exactly what's going to happen with this. They're thinking it could fizzle out a little bit or weaken as it comes to the coast, because that's what they normally do. They normally weaken as they hit land. But you never know. So if you want to read Robin's blog post, he's combined like 2 or 3 different reporting stations that talk about where it's going to go and what's going to happen and what to expect and how much rainfall. So we'll be following this for our friends down under. So we're going to keep you in our prayers and hope that everyone is safe and that you don't get too much damage down there. And so batten down the hatches if you're near Brisbane. So now the next article, and these are just potluck. As I find them, I copy and paste them into my show notes, and so they're not really in any order. Next we have from the Express from the UK. This is brand new, hot off the press today. Mount Etna just erupted and the volcano blows on Sicily, blasting huge ash cloud, and flights are cancelled. Here's a picture of it. There. Look at that. It's blowing. Looks like it's releasing over there too. Yeah, it's got 2 craters releasing. Here's the main one, and here's another one releasing.
As well, Clay has been with RK about 3 years.
So, the Catania airport restricted landings to just 4 per hour this morning due to the cloud of ash billowing from the volcano in Sicily, Italy. Takeoffs have not been affected by the explosion of Europe's most active volcano, and the airport warned of possible delays to travel. So, let's look at Mount Etna, and let's see what's going on over here. Here's Italy. Here's Sicily. There's Mount Etna. And here's the smoke coming down. It's the smoke and ash plume that you can see it here. And then if we go back, like yesterday, here we can see it was it started about 3 or 4 days ago. Here it was not as pronounced, but it's kind of really starting to come out. Here it is from the 18th with a large plume blowing to the west. And here it is just a little bit from the 17th. And we can't really see that much from the 16th because of clouds. So I'm not seeing that much smoke from the 16th, but then there's the 17th, a little bit here, then the 18th, large plume going to the west. Here's the 19th, and here it is today. And we can see how the smoke has gone way to the south, down towards Malta. So there's that. Isn't this fun? We get to see all of these interesting things. Next, this is from Zero Hedge, and this is from February 13th, and it says the world's most dangerous nuclear weapon just rolled off the assembly line. With the creation of a new mini-nuke warhead, the U.S. is making nuclear war all the more probable. They can't just leave all this alone. Last month, the National Nuclear Security Administration, formerly the Atomic Energy Commission, announced that the first of a new generation of strategic nuclear weapons had rolled off the assembly line at its Pantex nuclear weapons plant in the Panhandle of Texas. That's near Amarillo, by the way. That warhead, the W-76-2, is designed to be fitted in a submarine-launched Trident missile, a weapon with a range of more than 7,500 miles. By September, an undisclosed number of warheads will be delivered to the Navy for deployment. What makes this particular new is the fact that it carries a far smaller destructive payload than the thermonuclear monsters the Trident has been hosting for decades. Not the equivalent of about 100 kilotons of TNT as previously, but of 5 kilotons. According to Stephen Young of the Union of Concerned Scientists, the W-76-2 will yield only about 1/3 of the devastating power of the weapon that the Enola Gay, an American B-29 bomber, dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Yet that very shrinkage of the power to devastate is precisely what makes this nuclear weapon potentially the most dangerous ever manufactured. Fulfilling the Trump administration's quest for nuclear warfighting flexibility, it isn't designed as a deterrent against any country launching its nukes. It's designed to be used. This is the weapon that could make the previously unthinkable thinkable. And there's a picture of it. I almost got sick, literally got sick when I saw this. They're calling it a mini nuke. And so they're really proud of this because now they can just go drop them wherever they want. And anyway, I'm not going to read the whole article, but this is just a sign that we are getting closer and closer to the end when we see stuff like this. And, I don't mean to get political here, and I don't comment on right and left and stuff like that. I think it's all messed up, and I think it's all, we're in Satan's world. We're in Satan's domain, and this is just to be expected. So, if people leave comments on that, and you start leaving a bunch of political comments, they're not going to be approved, by the way. So, because I just don't want to go there. I just want to show people that this is what's in the works. And if the U.S. is doing this, you can bet Russia and China and all the other countries are doing it too. So now they can just drop more. So our last article is from the Inquisitor from February 16th, and it says, a 1,772-foot asteroid taller than the Empire State Building will be heading towards Earth in April. So there's a picture. And it says, NASA's asteroid trackers have just revealed that asteroid 2014 MV67 is currently headed towards Earth and will be making its closest approach on April 3, 2019. According to the Express, as an example of just how enormous this asteroid is, the building which is closest in size to this 1,772-foot piece of space rock is the Ostankino Tower in Moscow, Russia, with the asteroid even eclipsing both the Empire State Building in New York and the Eiffel Tower in Paris. In fact, it has even been reported to be 5.5 times larger than Big Ben in London, making this asteroid truly formidable. After its April 3rd appearance, the asteroid will not head towards Earth again until March 22, 2022, and again on March 26, 2025, while the chances of asteroid MV67 actually crashing into Earth are extremely low. This asteroid is nevertheless, oh, I hate that. I hate it when they do that. This asteroid is nevertheless traveling at an exceedingly fast speed of approximately 30,000 miles per hour, or 13.32 kilometers per second. Assuming the asteroid actually made atmospheric impact, its speed would increase greatly to a whopping 38,877 miles per hour, or 17.38 kilometers per second. And if asteroid MV67 actually were to crash into Earth, its effects would be utterly devastating. With NASA reporting that this asteroid weighs around 22 billion tons, an impact with the Earth would yield a force equivalent to detonating around 7,900 million tons of TNT. The nuclear bomb known as Little Boy, which was detonated over Hiroshima during World War II, only exploded with a force of around 13,000 to 18,000 tons of TNT, demonstrating just how very deadly this asteroid would be if it would ever strike Earth. However, NASA has stated that we should be safe from asteroid MV67 for now, and that there are no reported threats of either asteroids or comets hitting Earth for at least a few hundred years. NASA knows, okay, I already read that. So why would they publish this? Why would they release this information unless it's a soft disclosure, unless they're trying to get us used to the idea of, a huge asteroid crashing into the Earth, is my thought. And the reason I'm so interested in this is I've had a vision. I haven't shared this with very many people, but I did have a vision of an asteroid, a large rock crashing into the Atlantic Ocean and actually cracking the tectonic plate underneath. And so, in the time frame, I thought sometime in April. That was my vision. And so I don't know. I think it is a soft disclosure, and I think it's a real possibility. And a lot of times these asteroids are coming in and they don't even see them until they're too close to even warn people of them. And what are we going to do anyway? I mean, if something like that crashed into the Earth, it's like that. It's game over. It's game over. The end will be very fast for most life on the planet if something like that would crash in. So, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. So another reason to get your spiritual houses in order. And now we're going to go over to comments, and we're going to start with Rosemary Hill's response to my comment under my video from a couple of days ago, where I said I was so tired and that I'd said Svalbard instead of Novaya Zemlya a couple of times. And Rosemary Hill says, "My mother used to say the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. A humorous way of saying you didn't have the energy to do something you intended to do. Now at 68 years old, my flesh is truly weak, but the strength of the Spirit of God leads me on, moment by moment. You are doing what God has called you to do. Comfort my people. I thank God for your ministry to me and our group." And Rosemary, I love you. I so appreciate your comments and you being here, and thank you for recognizing the this is what I've been called to do here right at the end times. And it's not easy, especially with this group. But I love all of you, and I'm doing my best to do what God wants me to do, and I'm really glad that people are getting comfort and getting guidance and feeling informed and can come here, and that we have our small community here, and that we can be here and love each other in these last few days and weeks and hours. So thank you, Rosemary Hill, for that comment. I appreciate you very much. God bless you. And I'm going to be 65 in a couple of months, so you know, my flesh is not nearly as strong as it used to be, but I try and focus on what I can do rather than what I can't do, and there's just a heck of a lot that I can't do anymore. But anyway, now we're going to move on up. Kevo says, great video and info on the poles. This was on my sea ice and methane and earthquake report. I watch Paul Beckwith a lot, also Guy McPherson. Yes, I see the end in sight. Yeah, and it's all winding down, and that's what we're seeing. So thanks for your comment and for being here, Kevo, or Kevo, however you say that. And then under that same video, Rosemary Hill says, Margo, I enjoyed our visit to the Antarctic. I'm glad. It's a lot of work for you, but we all love you and appreciate what God has you doing for us. Thank you. NASA email I received today had a link to the countdown to calving event on the Brunt ice shelf in Antarctic. There are two rifts that are coming together. The first was reported in October 2016 and dubbed the Halloween crack. The second rift has recently moved 4 kilometers a year. The British were out of their research station by January 2017 after moving the whole station 23 kilometers east. Here are the links if you want to take a quick look. Well, thank you, Rosemary. And see, this is what I like, for people to do their own little synopsis, and then they leave the links. And these are interesting articles and observations that people can go to. And this is the World Classroom. And so when we click on this, it's calving at the Brunt ice shelf. And this is... I haven't looked at this real closely, but people can certainly go there and look at it. And this is the calving time of year, as it's coming to the end of their summer down there. And here's another article. As it's coming to the end of their summer, you know, the sun's been up for months and months, and so the ice is at its lowest. Antarctic station had to be abandoned. Look at that. So this shows where it is. So anyway, people can look at this, and I appreciate your research, Rosemary, and sharing that with us. And I saw an article today. I've got it saved for future articles. How this is the calving season now, and it sounds like, you know, cows having baby calves, but it's not. It's where the icebergs start breaking off of the ice sheets, and it's called calving. And so that's because it's at the end of their summer and the spring, and a lot of stuff is melted, and then once the sun goes down, it starts refreezing as best it can. So then Sensible Hairs says 1 hour special, great show, cheers. And this was under my show from yesterday. You're welcome, Sensible Hair, thank you. And then Graziano Fuma leaves a couple of comments under my Australian fires, etc. video. Margo, I feel some kind of relief when I see all those dead animals around us. Instead, I feel heartbroken for all those species that are still alive and suffer because of us. At least the dead ones are done suffering, and they are done suffering for our privileges. And then he says, there's one good thing about extinction. The majority of species, some human included, will stop suffering because of us, because of the privileged ones. And yeah, it's sad, and you know, this is a cycle, and like Guy McPherson says, that this 6 mass extinction would have happened eventually. It's just that we're bringing it on a lot faster. So yeah, the whole creation is suffering, and you know, my heart breaks to see the suffering, and I can feel it. You know, it's no fun being an empath with all this. So thanks for your comments, Graziano. And then Jochen Spalding says, under my video from yesterday, it needs to be said, a lot of stuff we buy is produced in China. They are the world's manufacturer-in-chief. So when we in the West buy things, we contribute to Chinese emissions indirectly. We can bring this down when we consume less. Well, you'd have to consume a lot less, and most everything. I mean, you go anywhere and it all says made in China. And the problem is that we don't have the manufacturing here in the United States anymore. And so it's the way it is. And then he says, on the question of geoengineering, I'm just as angry as you. What kind of hubris is this? And then he comments on, he says the different data NASA versus Earth Null School shows is due to the fact that NASA shows data they measure with the satellite, while Earth Null School is a weather model kind of thing. Always take that with 1 grain of salt. That's a good observation. So thank you for your comments, Jochen, and thanks for being here. And then Colin Shaw says, we are too material consuming society compared to our forefathers. So much junk and waste. We are only meant to naturally use only what is necessary and not unnecessary. Over-consumerization creates waste and pollution, and hiking emissions from industry keeping up with demand. Yeah, it's more and more and more, and you know, it's gluttony. It's all gluttony. People think I place too much emphasis and emotion on the state of the environment and complete lack of spiritual empathy on a troubled planet. They say they would not waste precious energy on something we can do nothing about or have any say in, which to me says they prefer their eyes closed. Their closed eyes mechanism. Take care, Margo, we can't care enough. And I agree, and I think we need to reuse and recycle as much as we can. And for me, all my clothes are wearing out, and I'm not buying new clothes at all. And I don't even go shopping in thrift stores anymore because my allergies are so bad. It's so hard for me to go out in public. And all my towels are wearing out, and it's just like, is just rags, but I refuse to go buy anything because I just don't want to add to it, and I just feel like the end is very near. And I reuse everything that I can, and anyway, my car is 26 years old this year. So I'm not consuming more than I need. I think we should have stayed hunters and gatherers. I think when we started like growing grains and then storing them, I think that's where we started getting into trouble. I just think we should have remained just very simple, and we could have stayed closer to God and closer to the spiritual, being spiritual and all that. It makes me sad. And then Michael Berlin says, "Hey all, I have little time, so I'll make this quick. Besides an agriculture food crisis, but an economic crisis comes as well. I believe the $22 trillion in U.S. debt will finally crash the economy. First, stock market crash. Two, left versus right border riots. Third, inflation. Fourth, dollar crisis. Fifth, economic food crisis. If we see the extreme temps in the Midwest grain belts this year, the food crisis escalates to riots. Have a plan and stay out of big cities. Food, shelter, water, and maybe barter items, even a little silver could help. If we don't have extreme heat stress in grain belt this year, then we will next year for certain. Groups of friends may be helpful to pull resources together. Friends, family resources, and a Bible to help ease the pain. Plan for it." Thank you for your observations, Michael, and I agree with you on most of it. And yeah, I think we're gonna start seeing food crises this year, and I know that down under, their wheat crops and their grain crops are probably not going to produce hardly anything, and so that's going to be a forerunner of what it's going to be like for us when we have our summer. So I'm just going to shelter in place, and I'm not going to stock up that much because if I die, I die. And I figure if God wants me here, God will help provide for me to be here, whatever that means. Because we can't plan for every single eventuality. And we can't figure it out. It's too much. And I think we need to focus on the spiritual to really get through it, to have the strength to get through it. But it's good to have some prepper skills and survival skills, but it needs to be a balance, I think. Robert Hayes says, "Hi Margo." Hi Robert. "I had to chuckle about the evil ICE 9/11 story Robin Western reposted because it reminded me of the great 1957 Kurt Vonnegut sci-fi story I thought everyone knew. It's about how our overreaching science and its unintended consequences bend the arc somewhat." And he leaves a link to below to, it's called ICE 9. "One wonders what sorts of continued offensive and ignorant hazards we'll have to be facing before we're out of here. Like they say, Lord, give me patience, but give it to me right now. As we are perfecting our practice here and learning how to face the certain evils and ignorance ahead of us, I do appreciate what you are helping to bring to our attention, so thanks again, And don't forget your power naps, of course. That's funny. Thank you, Robert. Very insightful. And if you click on this, this is Ice 9 is fictional material that appears in Kurt Vonnegut's novel Cat's Cradle. Ice 9 is described as a polymorph of water, which instead of melting at 0 Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, melts at 45.8 degrees Celsius or 104.4 degrees Fahrenheit. When Ice 9 comes into contact with liquid water below those temps, it acts as a seed crystal and causes the solidifications of the entire body of water, which quickly crystallizes as more Ice 9. As people are mostly water, Ice 9 kills nearly instantly when ingested or brought into contact with soft tissues exposed to the bloodstream, such as the eyes or tongue. And it goes on and on talking about the story. So, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing up there. Silicone beads. Give me a break. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. Then Sharon Thorpe says, "Hi, Margo." Hi, Sharon. Thanks again for your latest update, and also to Robin on his latest research on the article Arctic 9/11. After reading this article, this is clearly the perfect example of how we are all being lied to on a constant basis with barely any facts, i.e. real scientific evidence, put into consideration. Exactly. I didn't see any ideas of dealing with the problem due to ice melt from underneath with warmer ocean currents from the Atlantic or the Pacific, and also noticed a sentence saying we might have a BOE, blue ocean event, by 2030. Really? LOL. Not forgetting the article was asking me for donations. What a joke. And that's absolutely right, Sharon. And so what you are showing great discernment here. So you're reading between the lines and you're showing discernment, and we're seeing how everything that's put out there is a lie. Almost everything. So we have to be discerning. We have to look for ourselves and make up our own minds about things. Thank you, Sharon, for that comment. And then Robert Hayes leaves this comment. Margo, you've almost certainly covered this before, but here's a nice article from the National Center for Ice and Snow Data in Boulder diagramming how Antarctic ice melting is accelerating. The big melt, Earth's ice sheets are under attack, science news for students. And then here's a quote from it. Antarctica's rate of ice loss has increased by sixfold since 1979, and between just 2000 and 2004, Greenland's rate of ice loss also nearly tripled. Antarctica is now losing some 250 billion tons of ice per year. In places like Canada, Alaska, and the high mountains of Asia and South America, the world's smaller glaciers are collectively losing 215 billion tons per year, and Greenland is losing about 280 billion tons of ice per year. But among these masses of ice, Antarctica is the sleeping giant. It holds 85% of the world's ice. It's 7 times as much as Greenland and all of the world's other glaciers combined. And then he leaves a link to the article. It's a really good article, and it brings together a lot of stuff that I've shown in individual articles, and it's a whole compilation, and it's a really excellent article. I looked at it. And then he says, I'm going to look for a map of all the nuclear power facilities which will be inundated by the expected 18-foot plus sea level rise. The negotiation around the immense denial about this will certainly be a huge and historic drama. What a story. I guess our species will be gearing up in psychic and spiritual ways to learn how best to face this rapidly unfolding predicament. Thank you, Robert. So if we click on that article, it's Science News for Students, and it's from January 31st, 2019. And as I skimmed through it, I learned some stuff in here, and it talked about the pooling water, where it was the glaciers are melting in the Antarctic. And when you see that, here's what it looks like. I'm going to show you this real quick. Hang on, let me pull up NASA Worldview. Okay, let's go to the Antarctic. Now, let's go to today, the 20th. And when you see right here, this is that Amory ice sheet, and they talk about this ice sheet. I don't know if it was this article or somewhere else, that this ice sheet's in big trouble. There's a lot of melting happening here, and when you see these blue things, that's the pools where the ice has melted and it's sitting on top of the other ice. See that? That's what that is. Here's some right there. There's a big one. There's a lake, and they're talking about it, and so that's what that is. So I learned that when I was looking through that article. So let's leave that. And let's get ready for our earthquake report. I'm going to take a short break and be right back. Okay, so what we have here is USGS for the last 24 hours, all magnitudes worldwide. We're showing an uptick of the number of earthquakes. We're showing 224 on the map for worldwide. So quite a bit higher than the last couple of days. And if we look at 2.5 magnitude and higher, we're only showing 27. So most of them are going to be under 2.5 magnitude, obviously. So a lot of little ones, clusters, things like that we're going to be seeing. So we're going to start. Let's see what's going to be coming off the map first. We're going to start with this one in Tajikistan that came in yesterday at 5:35 p.m. I don't know if I covered this or not. There might be a little bit of overlap. Sometimes they post them many hours later after they really happened. So this was near Kofornihon, Tajikistan, and .6 right there, right next to that road. Then see what else might be coming off the map soon. The next one is this 4.0 near Kandala, India. This one happened at 6:29 yesterday, yesterday evening. And these are all Pacific time, because that's my time zone. And we can see it's right next to that red line. 4.0 is probably not big enough to do any damage. Let's cover these to the west of those next. Here was one off the coast of Yemen in the Arabian Sea, right on this red line. It was a 5.0 near Haswayan, Yemen. This one happened at 4:33 this morning. Next, we're seeing this one off the coast of Crete, which is part of Greece, a 4.4 near Palaiachora, Greece, at 2:43 this morning, 43 kilometers deep. So it's just south of that little island there. Then here's one on land in Turkey, right in the middle of this road. It was a 5.1 near Izmir, Turkey, at 10:23 this morning. That could do some damage if the structures are not well built. Then coming across, here's one in China, in the Tibetan Plateau, a 4.8 near Delingxi, China, at 7:40 p.m. last night, 10.7 kilometers deep. Next, here's one in Thailand. See, these are in unusual places that we normally don't see them. A 4.6 near Wang Nui, Nui, Thailand, at 1:05 this morning. A lot of 4s. Let's catch this one up in the Japan area here. Here was a 4.8 near Naze, Japan. This happened last night at 7:18 p.m. in the ocean, right next to the red line. Moving down into Indonesia. Here's a 4.6 near Samlaki. Last night at 10:50 p.m., 205 kilometers deep. So the deep ones are what will shake those plates around the planet. Here's one on land in New Britain, Papua New Guinea, a 4.9 near Kokopo. This one happened at 6:45 this morning, 35 kilometers deep. Right there. That's it for the South Pacific on that side. Now let's move on over to South America. We've got two pretty much in the same place. The first one was a 4.4 near San Antonio de los Cobras, Argentina. This one happened at 2:22 this morning, 188 kilometers deep. And then a 4.5 in the same area. This one came in at 4:42 this afternoon, 193 kilometers deep. Moving on up, here's one off the coast of Costa Rica, a 3.6 near Parita, Costa Rica, last night at 8:06 p.m., 35 kilometers deep. Now, let's go to all magnitudes. Now let's go to Hawaii next. We're seeing 7 here today. Look at this cluster up here next to Mauna Loa. That's where most of them were. 2.3, 2.2, 1.0. Here's a 1.9, 1.0, 0.9, and 1.8. Now this 0.9 was at minus 0.7 kilometers depth, so that was right there, and then these others were clustered north of that one. All part of the Mauna Loa area, and then these two were down here at Pahala. And there was one more. This 2.2 was at a minus 0.8 kilometers depth. So 2 of them were up in the crater or in the mountain. Now we'll look at Dominican Republic next. We've got 10 on the map here today. We've been seeing this cluster over here in the ocean in the British Virgin Islands. So let's see what we've got. I'll call them off. 3.1, 2.0, 3.3, 3.1, 3.3, 3.3, 2.0, 2.2, 3.0, and 2.1. So 3s and 2s there. Next we'll go up to Alaska. Nothing up in the northern end. We're showing 48 here on the map for all magnitudes. Let's see how many are 2.5 magnitude or higher. 3. We've got a 3.5 near Valdez, 3.9 near Old Iliamna, and a 2.6 near Cantwell. So the rest of these are smaller than that. And look at this cluster at Anchorage, so that's kind of picking back up. That's showing 36 in the viewing area here, including this cluster here. These are mainly high 1s and low 2s. So there's that. Now let's come on into the lower 48. Nothing up there. Let's open this up a little bit. Down here in West Texas were 2 right beside each other. Here was on the first one was a 2.9. This is near Guadalupe Peak. They're calling it near Loving, New Mexico. That was the reporting station, but it's actually in Texas, and it's out in the middle of the desert, and there are these mountains, the Guadalupe Mountains and Guadalupe Peak, but this is pretty much flat out here. 2.9 that came in at 3:51 this morning, 5 kilometers deep. And then a 2.7 near Mentone that happened at 2:32 this afternoon, 5 kilometers deep. Then here's one in Arizona. 1.7 in northern Arizona. They're calling it near St. George, Utah. That was the reporting station, but it's on the other side of the border in Arizona. 1.7 at 1:29 this afternoon. Then here's the big activity in Utah. We've got 9 here at Fillmore, and we had a 4.0 here. That was the largest one, but it started with a 2.2 last night at 11:05 p.m. And what was the at 16 seconds and 16 seconds, 11:05 and 16 seconds. And then this 4.0 came in at 11:05 and 35 seconds. So 19 seconds later, that 4.0 came in at 8 kilometers deep. Then at 11:13, a 1.3 came in, and then at 11:42 the 1.8 came in, 11:47 1.6, 11:49 1.7, at 2:25 this morning a 1.5, 2:52 this morning 1.7, and the last one was at 8:29 this morning, a 1.1. So that's showing a lot of movement and activity there. Then here's this 3 down here at Bluffdale. Remember, we saw a huge cluster here a few days ago. 1.0, 0.6, and 1.8. Next, we've got a cluster in Yellowstone. This is all at the same location. There are 16 all stacked up here near West Yellowstone, Montana. And they're small. They're under 1. Some of them, like the lowest is a 0.4, it looks like. And the highest was this 0.7, it looks like. So it's showing movement here at Yellowstone. So there it is. This is Highway 287 that it was clustered on around. Some of them were right on the highway there. So when did these start? The first one was at 12:59 this morning. Then at 1:19, 3:55, 2:58, 4:02, 4:14, 4:26, 4:29, 4:31, 4:32, and so forth. Then the last one was at 12:31 this afternoon. But most of them happened between midnight or 1 o'clock, about 1 o'clock in the morning and 5:38. So in about 4.5 hours, 15 of them came in and then one more. So there's that. Then, up in the northwest, we're seeing 5 here, clustered around the Seattle area. There's a 2.2, 0.9, 0.8, 1.6, and 1.8. Next, coming on down, here's one on the San Andreas fault line, 2.5 near Petrolia. That one happened at 12:17 this morning. Let's go ahead and do this Northern California area. At the geysers, they're showing an uptick of 11 here today. The largest one was the 2.3 that happened at 10:11 this morning. Next, moving across in Northern California, here's one at Lyson, 1.1 near Mineral, California. That one happened last night at 11:49 p.m. And remember, this Lyson Peak is an old volcano. Lyson Peak is up here. Lyson Volcano. So it's right down there. And then a 0.3 further south of there. Next is a 1.2 near Downeyville. Downeyville, here's Oroville, and so Downeyville is directly northeast of Oroville. Then coming on down into the Lake Tahoe area was a 1.4 near Truckee at 11:05 last night. See if there's anything else in the Reno area. No, down here in Carson City we've got a couple. Some small ones. Here's a 0.8 near Prison Hill, and then a 0.5 to the east of that. Then check on northern Nevada. It's clear. Here's one 1.1 near Urington, and then here's a cluster. It looks like a few down here at Hawthorne. We've got 3 down here at Hawthorne, 1 at Gabbs, 1.8 explosion over here to the east at Gabbs, Nevada. This one happened at 3:11 this afternoon. So they're back at work doing their construction and blowing things up. Here's a 1.5 at Warm Springs, 1.2 near Alamo, and then here's another little one. Now let's come on down this east side of California. Here's a 1.1 near Bridgeport. Here's a 2.7 near Bodie. This is right next to Mono Lake, and it's in Mono Valley. Here's one in the middle of Mono Lake, a 1.3. Let's look at that one. Okay. And then, moving on down, there was a 1.1 at Yosemite Valley. This one happened last night at 9:51 p.m. And then we've got here at Mammoth Lake and part of the Long Valley area, we've got 7. 1.0, 0.9, 0.5, 0.7, 1.1, 1.0, 1.0. So there's those. None of those were up in the mountain. Did I get this one? 1.8 near Awani. Coming on down. Let's get this one next. 1.8 near Bodfish. Here's a grouping. It looks like a grouping near Rose Valley. 2.2 near Coso Junction. And then, so how many did we have here near Coso Junction? We've got 5 today. Then there was a 1.7, and then the rest are under that. So 5 right here. Coming on down. I got that one. Here's a 2.1 near Baker. And let's come down this San Andreas fault line now. Here's a 1.2 near Piedmont, which is northeast of Oakland. That one happened last night at 11:43 p.m. in San Francisco area. Then 1.1 near Tres Pinos, 2.1 near Tres Pinos, right on the red line. Then 2.1 near Granada Hills. We've got some in the ocean today. I always like to see those. 1.8 near Dana Point. 1.3 near La Jolla. That one happened at 3:12 this afternoon. Oh, there's 2 there. And a 1.4 that happened at 1:55. So those happened in a pair just off the coast of La Jolla. Here's one across the border to the west of Mexicali, a 1.3 that came in last night at 10:42 p.m. We've got some couple down here on the Salton Sea. Here's a 2.3 near Westmoreland and 1.7 at the same place. So in Southern California, we've got 57 total. So that's more than yesterday. Let's see how many are at Kauai today. 37 in this area. And it looks like these are all pretty small. Here's a 2.0. I think that's the largest. And the rest were under 1. So in the low ones. So I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. Let's zoom out and see if there's anything major that happened while we were recording this. .5, we got that. We got Mentone, we got Bodie. Did we get Bodie? 2.7 near Bodie, California. That one happened at 1:22 this afternoon. We got Cantwell, we got Turkey. I think that's a wrap. So I'll let everyone go. I hope you have a good evening. I'm praying for all of you. time is short. I do believe we are in the end times, and do get quiet and ask God to show you what He wants you to be doing, how it's best to serve Him, how you can serve Him in these end times, what you need to do, and He will show you. He'll guide you, and He'll show you how to prepare and how to be and how to interact with people, and it'll all be made clear to you. All you have to do is ask. I love you all very much. God bless you. And until next time, go in peace. I'll talk to you real soon. Good night.